Nothing like dropping a bomb like that.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. You have to tell everybody we're about to start the podcast.
So our topic this
It's
week.
our topic is about mental health. Yes, of course. And then you drop this huge bombshell. I'm about to start the podcast. Bombshell. Boom. Let's go. This is gonna be exciting. What's going on, Kristin Burritt?
Hey, it's life's pretty great right now. I'm feeling good. We are my current events at the moment is that we are onboarding our new team member. Shout out to Adriana.
Adriana Hernandez.
I love her so much. And I knew we were getting a team member. I didn't realize I was getting such a good friend too. So it has just been a pleasure. And I feel like, we already just had a killer year. And I think we're just, sky's the limit. We're ready to help a lot of people because she cares about people. She belongs on our team. She's all about people. So
Ma'am.
I've actually lost my voice a little bit from speaking a couple hours a day during training. So my voice is a little husky or, a little like lower than usual, but worth it. Anyway, did I make you blush?
Close my eyes and hear that voice.
You
That
are
would be fun.
blushing. So what's up with you?
Not much. Yes, you're right. Adriana is a godsend. She is amazing, great person, and yeah, let's see what happens. I'm really excited to be working with her as well. I think she's gonna do wonders for the team. To be honest, she's gonna be great. But hey, so focusing on the topic for today, mental health.
Dun dun.
It's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be a big one.
It is gonna be a big one.
And I really hope also people like join in as far as talking online, comments, reaching out. But let's see what happens. I think it's gonna. Is that your cat?
Yes, this is my emotional support animal, but he doesn't support it very well. He tends to stir it up.
He runs away.
But before we do that, our highlight this week, I could not be more excited. This was a previous coworker of mine.
Drunk.
Now a client and a neighbor, the famous Heather Walter. She is a very successful published author. The second book in her duology is releasing in early May, but I'm not sure if this will get released. This episode will get released in February, but for February, she's been a book of the month at Barnes & Noble. So if you go into Barnes & Noble across the country, she's right there in the front. Touch them up and go. Oh, here come the and the first book is called Malice, and it's a retelling of a fairy tale, but in such a creative way. When I was first reading it, I kept having this moment where I was like, I can't believe this came out of the brain of my friend. I just got really caught up in the world.
Just give us a little piece of like what happens. Like,
well, it's a little bit. It's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but completely on its head. It like turns the idea of who Sleeping Beauty is and who the great love of her life is. It just turns it upside down.
Oh man.
And she creates a whole world. I mean, it's not a Disney fairy tale. It's definitely not. Some people have been incorrect in labeling it as a YA. She just won this huge award called an Alex Award, and that is for adult novels that appeal to YA. So she's definitely got a YA following, which is just young adult, but it's not a young adult book. It's definitely a mature book, and I just love it. I love it so much. I think everyone but Aiden is either reading it now or has read it in our house. But to see her get this award, and she's on TikTok. Heather Walter is on TikTok, BookTok. There's a whole part of TikTok.
I'm gonna look her up. I need to read one of her books.
It's just awesome. But so you can check out Malice and then be ready for Misrule. Misrule is the next book coming out this spring. But she's just a super cool human, super smart, and just so blessed to call her friend. And, you know, she started out as a coworker that I didn't know very well and then became a client. And as happens to us, clients sometimes become family,
They all
neighbors
become
even.
friends and family. That is true.
So,
And that's awesome. Really, really excited for her, and good things are happening for people. It's amazing what, you know, you focus on what you want to do and good things come out.
it's true.
Focus, focus, focus.
Yep, it's been amazing. All right, so to our topic today. Um, just a little one, you know, no big deal here. Just a little topic of mental health.
Who's
This,
your IT person when you need them, Kristen?
I know. Well, something's plugged in, but it's not charging. So, story of my life. Anywho, um, you know, this is very, very personal to me because I want to start by saying that I think things are changing, things, and I'm happy to see it. But the times in my life where I was in the darkest places, and there's been a few times where I've been in really, really dark places, hearing someone else talk about what they went through and coming through the other side was was literally the ropes I clung to pull me out of the pit. I mean, mental health struggles can feel like you're literally in a dark pit, and not just depression. There are lots of different kinds of mental health struggles, but I remember specifically, I'm a huge Kristen Bell fan, you know, the actress Kristen Bell, and she has talked so openly about her mental health. And a few times when I was really in a bad spot, I heard her talk on a podcast and it helped me. And another shout out I really want to give is Zachary Levi, who's the guy who plays Shazam. That's what he's done most recently, is he's Shazam, but he's done a lot of stuff. Zachary Levi, he was in Chuck, the show Chuck, which our family adores, and he actually lives in Bastrop, which is super cool.
Hey.
He's kind of like a local boy now. He bought some land out here,
Right
but
on.
he talks freely and openly about mental health and has just helped a ton of people.
I had
So
no idea.
yeah, so that's my goal today, is to continue to strip down the barriers of the stigma around it and to talk about how common it really is, and to talk about how what happened in the last 2 years is stirring things up, you know? So I'll get us started just with some facty fact stuff. I got a lot of this information off of trusted sites. There's the World Health Organization posts a lot about it, and I just wanted to talk about, you know, the big two that are most common are labeled as anxiety and depression. So I'm reading this right off the World Health Organization. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental disorder in the US. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 13 people around the world suffer from anxiety, like diagnosable anxiety. 8% of children and teenagers have a diagnosable anxiety disorder. 8%. Over 40 million adults each year. But the thing above all else, the thing I want to make sure that I say time and time again today is just that, you know, if you're listening to this and you're struggling, you're not alone. It is so common. And the worst thing about anxiety and depression is that it tells you that you are alone, that this is how you're going to feel forever. It's never going to change. You've lost the person you were. Bye-bye. This is your life now. And that's just the lie of the illness. It's really kind of fascinating because, you know, when we get into talking about depression is really fascinating to me in that it's the body trying to protect itself. Because I've struggled with depression, I have read just a ton of books about it. So when you start to see it that way, as your body trying to give you a message and protect you, it really is kind of fascinating. Fascinating when you're not in the throes of it. Let me just say that. It's not fascinating when you're feeling it. It sucks. It sucks bad. In terms of depression is also, I'm just giving an overview here. It affects, you know, 1 in 10 adults in any given year. So super, super common. It's the leading cause of people going on disability. between the ages of 15 and 44. And it's painfully common in teenagers. And I think the chemicals going on in their body have a lot to play in that. So I just threw a ton of information at you. So give me your thoughts. I'm going to stop talking. I know it's really hard for me, David, but I'm going to shut up for a second.
No, I'm letting you roll. I'm letting you roll. You were given a lot of information. There was a lot of information. There was a lot of stats in there. 1 out of 13 people in the US, or was it the world?
1 in 13 around the world.
Wow.
So over 40 million adults every year. So anxiety is definitely the number one. Depression is the number two, but they also go hand in hand.
Of course.
So,
but like, when do you? All right, number one. Let's start from the beginning. Was there that many or that amount of people back? Let's go back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that had this type of disorders, that had this much anxiety, depression? Or is it just that the times are changing and more people are being more open about it and they're going to get help, which numbers are getting recorded nowadays? Okay, so
those are really good. I'm so proud of you. Those are really good questions. And I think it's a complicated answer, really, because I think it's
a little star, one of those.
there you go, gold star. Because I think it's all those things. First of all, if you think back to especially like a pre-industrial world, we tended to live in family communities and villages. So the support of having people around you all the time. I used to think about this a lot when my depression was bad, when my kids were really little, because I felt isolated with my little ones all the time. And I used to think like, oh, well, 100 years ago, I would be like with my sisters and aunts and my mom, and we would all have the kids together and we would be in a village. It would be a group thing, not me in my tiny little house trying to deal with everything. So the community aspect has changed. Our technology has enabled us to move away from people. And it's so strange, right? Because in some ways it allows us to connect far more, but it also separates us. So it's the thing that allows us to separate also allows us to connect, but it's not exactly the same thing. Also, in the pre-industrial world, we were an agricultural society. So we were outside. We walked a lot more. We were out in nature in the sun a lot more. And what they've studied now is that the effect of sunshine, for sure, on regulating the nervous system, because mental health disorders are really, it's just a disorder, a dis-ease in the nervous system is really what it is. And so the things that help to regulate that, sun really helps to regulate it. Movement really helps to regulate it. So if you were out in the sun already and you were walking everywhere, you were getting that. Healthier foods helps to regulate it. And, our food was less processed back then. So there's all of that. Plus, even just working in the soil, like as when we were more of an agricultural society, we were all touching dirt at some point, even whether it was actual the farming or the preparing and all that. And they've proven that there are microbes in the soil that literally help balance everything in your body, including your nervous system. So those are that's changed, first of all. Now I think the big jump that we're seeing is actually because of, I hate to say it, but it's actually because of social media, Facebook, Instagram. I shouldn't probably name them. Don't sue me. But if you watch the movie, it's a documentary called The Social Dilemma. The Social Dilemma. See,
I haven't seen it yet. I know it's I think they have it on Netflix, right?
Yes, it's on Netflix. It's directed by Jeff Orlowski. All I can tell you is, my 20-year-old at the time, because it came out in 2020, I asked my family to watch it, and my two sons basically got off their social media, and my older son will not go back. My younger one is on social media just for his prop stuff. So anytime he builds something, he'll kind of post about that, because that's how he connects to the prop and armor building community, but not for actual social things. But what they have discovered is we bless you, Tom. We we actually are over drugging ourselves. So when we are on social media, whether it doesn't matter the app, we get like a tiny little hit of dopamine from every like little scroll, every new thing we see, everything that entertains us. That's why you start to feel like um this becomes an appendage, right? It's suddenly
Yeah.
attached to me, it's close to me everywhere. It's because it's literally like a high, like we get a little hit of dopamine. And what's happened, especially in our younger generation, is they get so addicted to that dopamine hit that their body doesn't have a normal response to it anymore. Like it's supposed to be left for um, there's supposed to be a natural flow of when things are, when you there's a reason to be really happy or excited, or a sense of reward when you have a big accomplishment, all these different things. and and what social media does is it gives you an artificial hit, and it's an artificial one that just happens all the time.
Right.
And
Now it's the now. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, so no, that was it. I mean, basically, so it's we are ruining, we are just messing up the balance in our own body. And I will absolutely tell you, after seeing the documentary myself, I really did, like, I put it away. I tried to be conscious about it.
And you
Um,
slowly start going back.
well, yeah, well, and it's hard in our job, right? As real estate
Oh
agents,
yeah.
I want to be in touch with my clients constantly. So I try and stay off socials other than to check on our clients and stuff, and to make sure that I don't miss texts.
It's hard.
Um,
It's hard. It used to be where, I mean, nowadays, to be honest, you get out, you're gonna go out before you get out the door. Instead of checking to see if you have the car keys, you're actually checking to see if you have your phone first, and then your car keys, which is amazing. But you're right. Social is a big one. Nowadays, kids are, how many likes do I have? How many loves do I have? How many people viewed this? Otherwise, it's the end of the world, right? And I've seen people where they're getting depressed because they don't have X amount of views on their post.
well, plus unrealistic expectations, right? We're seeing a lot of that, like just unrealistic expectations. I mean, the original social media was magazines. That was when they started airbrushing magazines and everything. That was kind of my coming of age period, was when they first started working at airbrushing photos and stuff for magazines. And so we were seeing these models that were a symbol of perfection to us that was not attainable. But guess what? The models didn't look like that either. And now it's much worse. So now it's 10 times worse than what it was, because they can, with a click of your mouse, you can change things.
Yeah,
Um,
filters,
Yeah, I mean, okay, so to be
filters.
honest, I have a Facebook filter on right now. There's one that says like filter your appearance. And every time I get on, I'm trying to make it go more like, this is the real me. I am 50 years old. This is what I look like after a life of laughing and smiling and loving and hurting. And I'm not embarrassed about this. So why am
Oh,
I like, I'm putting on this filter because I don't like to look at myself, the
what?
way I really look? No, I'm just saying, like, I'm over it. This is me.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah, I'm over it.
But hold on. So let's take it a step back. So you're telling me that I can put a filter right now and I can look a little bit more like Jason Momoa?
Well, all it does is really like smooth out your skin.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Click the filter.
Jason Momoa.
Okay, cool. That's interesting.
Yeah,
That is interesting, but I like it. Keep it all natural.
thank you. I mean, and I even, well, maybe where some of this really hit me. I mean, I I like make I'm a girly girl. I do like makeup. But I so wish that I could be out in the world, makeup, free and just myself. And what I realized is like I might be fine with that, but people will literally react to me differently. And I think it's because I have blonde eyelashes and blonde eyebrows. And so I look so drastically different without any darkness here that I have found that people who know me really well, like, won't even like make eye contact with me if I don't have any makeup on. And so finally I was like, fine, I'll put on some mascara so that people don't feel so awkward. Um, and it's interesting. It's like you just realize how, I mean, it's my own fault. I guess if I never wore makeup, I wouldn't look so different and that would be fine. But I also, like makeup to me is like art, so it's fun. But
Yeah, I know. I get where you're coming from, but I can tell you that guys, I mean, they appreciate natural versus, fake. I mean, I'm married, haven't gone out in several years, but I mean, I have cousins. They go out, they're single, and they, they tell me sometimes they go out with this goddess, and they wake up the next day and you know fake eyelashes, all the things that they put on their face, a wig, and the next thing you know is like, "Hi, Johnny."
yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, who knows? To each his own. Whatever. But is that really what makes you happy? Like being fake, I guess.
No, I mean, I think my journey in these last few years has been my journey fully has been about trying to embrace who I am. Um, so, I stopped straightening my hair. Like this is my hair. And this is my hair color. I try and cover some grays when they come in. Um, that's just because I mean, I wouldn't have to, but
No, no,
um,
no. By the way, I wasn't talking
oh no, no,
specifically
it's
about you, right? Just
okay.
throwing that out there. Just all these people that are on social media nowadays, most of them are fake. They're
Yeah,
just not really them.
there's filters on everything.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyway, how about in terms of? I mean, I can tell you this, changing the topic a little bit and going back to the main topic of mental health, depression, and anxiety. I can tell you that. I mean, it's been more than 20 years since I lived in Mexico, but it's completely different over there, or at least it was.
tell me, tell me.
There wasn't. You're depressed. It's not something like, it's not a word that gets thrown around the household a lot. Not a lot of people believe in it. Again, it's been more than 20 years since I lived in Mexico. You didn't go to see a doctor or a therapist or anything like that. You just get over it, get with your day, and make sure
Pull
you
yourself together, move on. Yeah.
yeah, get your shit together and get it done. It's another day, move on. And especially for guys. I mean, I know there should be a thing with equality, but I can tell you that we sometimes we just keep shut to ourselves. We're gonna figure out a way of working it, and that's that.
You think it goes with like you've talked a little bit about the macho like kind of persona of your culture. Like, do you feel like the we don't talk about mental health goes hand in hand with that?
Man, it's a really touchy subject, to be honest. It's it's a signal of weakness, I think.
But it's not. That's what we need to get out of
And
it.
who and as the is, we want to say the macho persona, you don't want to be singled out as weak. Why couldn't you fix this? Why do you need somebody telling you right here that, hey, the same things that you already know? Why do you need to talk to somebody about your problems if it's your problems?
Oh
You
yeah.
should be able to fix your own
You
problems.
don't you need, don't need yeah.
So it's I I don't think a lot of people open up uh, to their problems, especially men, especially the Latino community.
I have heard that time and time again when
And
I was looking.
now when you move to a different country and you start hearing about all these people that can help you out, all the names that they give: anxiety, depression, mental health, and you know you're still a little bit skeptic, a little bit, because again, it's not the way that you were raised. You just come from a from a different tree. You come from a different place, right? But yeah, people should know that there's help out there, and at least if you never given it a try to talk to somebody about it, I think it will open up a whole new world for you if you just try it out once. Maybe yes, it's not for you, but if you try it out once and it helps you out, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there's something there that you want to dig more into, right? As far as trying to figure out how you can get better.
Here's
Is
my
that your cat?
it's my emotional support cat. Yes. Hey, well, if I go offline entirely, you know it's his fault. I love I think all the things you just said are very, very helpful and are really going to connect with some people, because I wonder if what you're experiencing when you're, when you talk about in Mexico compared to me being in an ultra conservative Christian environment for a long time. There was a lot of like, you just need to pray more. Like if you prayed more, if you relied on God, that you wouldn't struggle. And I remember personally, I mean, my own story is that I definitely, if I look back, I had some anxiety growing up, but it was pretty normal. I mean, I could tell that like I'm sort of wired for anxiety. That's fine. But it didn't disrupt my life. It never disrupted my life until I hit 30. So at 30, we had lived through craziness with Aiden. He nearly died after he was born. And then it was like a year and a half of seeing specialists. We still didn't know if what had happened could happen again. It was just a really scary time. And then we moved on top of it. So like we arrived in Austin and I fell apart. I fell apart. It started with panic attacks. And they were crazy because I thought I was dying. And at the time I thought, well, my baby had a stroke, so therefore maybe I'm having a stroke. That's what it felt like. It felt like weird dizziness and like this weird, like it just felt like my brain was wrong, is what I just kept saying. Like something's wrong. And I didn't know it was a panic attack. So after a few panic attacks, I was left depressed. And that's typical because anxiety like kind of burns off all your good, happy brain chemicals. So you have like serotonin and norepinephrine and dopamine, all these things that help make you feel good.
Right.
And panic and anxiety burns off the good ones. So that's why you're left kind of in this flattened state. So here we were in Austin, no doctors yet, no family nearby. And I was so depressed, I couldn't function. And there were people in our church that said, well, what's your sin issue? You must be making God unhappy.
There you.
So then I really beat myself up for a while. Like, well, I just need to pray. I just need to pray more. And I need to do all these things. I'm failing. My depression is because I'm failing. It then occurred to me, if I had come and said, I have cancer, would they have asked me what my sin issue was? I just want to, I was touching on the idea that it's somehow a weakness, that mental health is a sign of weakness or a sign of a lack of faith or a sign of something like that. But science has proven that it's no different than if you were diabetic and you needed insulin, or you had cancer and you needed treatment. Our minds are an organ and they are affected by everything we do and eat and watch and think. And so sometimes they need help. Our brains need help. And to think that as a weakness, I mean, that's why it was really hard. I learned how to, I went through lots of therapy and I took some medication and I got better and I learned how to kind of handle it and deal with it. But what I do remember when I was teaching, so stress can be a huge trigger. If you're somebody that's like previously struggled with anxiety or depression, extreme stress can be more likely to trigger it. And so my last few years of teaching, I was so burned out. I mean, so unbelievably burned out. I could barely function. And I was forcing myself to continue functioning because I didn't want to be seen as weak. And to this day, I know there were people that say, Kristin she couldn't handle it. She couldn't do it. She couldn't handle being a teacher. She blew it. She's weak. I know those things were said about me, but I can tell you the strongest thing I ever did was walking away to take care of myself. And my doctor, it was literally my doctor said, you know, my stress was so bad that it was showing up in tests. So like my electrolytes were off, my liver numbers, like everything in my body was out of balance. And so she said, if you continue like this, it can kill you. Like, this is not a little thing. Stress can kill you. And she said it, and Tom and I were together, and that was the moment that I realized I have to leave. I have to quit. And there's also a book called the Burnout book by Emily Nagoski, that I feel like it should be required reading for every human, honestly, because it talks about the different stages of how stress affects your body. And so I feel like if I had read that book when I was in my 20s and I had been aware of the stages and it doesn't say avoid stress, because we can't avoid stress altogether. But this book just tells you how to process stress in your body, because a lot of times we don't fully process it. And so it just like lives there. And so this is about breaking the stress cycle so that you don't end up with physical ailments, with anxiety, with depression. So that book, I definitely attribute that book with literally saving my life.
Wow.
You know, and that was recent. But I do think the greatest battle we have is this idea that mental health is somehow different than any other organ in our body. Therefore, we should be, I mean, if you broke your leg, would people be like, oh, come on, just get back up on it, you know, wrap it up and then just move on with your life? Like, no, they wouldn't. But for whatever reason, there's just this, and to be honest, I do think, you know, when there was, before there was any treatment for mental health, people were just sent away. They were sent away to live in permanent facilities where they were treated like animals. So I think that idea that mental health was such a scary idea, and there was movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that was scary, and they showed electric shock therapy and all these really frightening things. I think that contributed to the stigma. Like, people just didn't want to be that branch of the family tree.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And now I wonder nowadays, because we both have kids, and I mean, yours are going through school already, right? How much does school, besides social media, like the bullying, how much school has an effect on them? And now for my 3-year-old, I'm sorry, 5-year-old, where is it going to be when she reaches high school? You know, what's the pressure going to be like? Is there going to be stress? I mean, I would never want any of my family to be dealing with depression or have stress or anxiety. So it's interesting because there's more awareness about, for example, bullying in school, right? Yet I see that a lot of the cases that are going or happening nowadays is still bullying. There's just a lot of people, a lot of kids getting bullied. So
Sometimes people who are hurting will act out in that way. So sometimes the bullying is even a symptom of that kid's own trauma.
it's
Um,
crazy.
there's two things I really want to say, which I've already said both, but as a parent, so here I am sitting on the side where, you know, my kids are 24, 22, and 17, and you have a 5-year-old and a negative 1 month, 1 more month. I'd say if there was one thing I would tell anyone in your position is to watch The Social Dilemma, and the other one is to read the Burnout book, because those two things have changed the way I communicate with my kids, with other students that I have. The Burnout book, which is, you know, you think is just for adults, but it's affected my parenting in that now that I understand how the body's processes stress and the stress cycle, now I can coach my own kids on that, or I can coach my students, you know, the kids that I teach at Zach or my private voice students. I can, because no one's educating about this stress cycle and how to process it. So we just say, avoid stress, you know, take
Good
care
luck.
of yourself. Yeah, that's not reality. So I would read that book and I would watch The Social Dilemma before your child is old enough to get involved. Um, and the big success, I feel like my probably, it's silly to say it, but probably my proudest thing about my parenting, and it's hard for me to say that because I don't feel, I mean, I certainly didn't do it
Go
alone.
for it. Go for it. We want to hear it.
It's just that talking about mental health and seeing a therapist is completely normal in our house. It is. We talk about mental health constantly.
It's awesome.
All three of my kids are in therapy. I have been in therapy. I'm not currently at this moment, unless you count this podcast. but but
Your
it's
doctor.
normalized. It's normalized because I know how much it helps, and especially it's also like this great safety net, like knowing that the two kids that don't live here anymore have another professional in their lives that are helping them process and everything. It's a, you know, it's like a safety net knowing that they've got that support system. And let me tell you, we all lived through, this was trauma. The pandemic has been traumatic. It's been traumatic. So we all have this shared trauma that we're still going through. Um, and so it's going to affect everybody's mental health. I feel like therapy should be a requirement for every human now. I feel like we should all have to just, you know, we talk so much about eating right for our bodies and exercise. To me, that's the third part of like the triangle. It's like you've got the eating healthy, the moving your body, and then for in our house, it's talking about that emotional mental health. That's like the third part
Mhm.
of making a healthy person all
Yeah.
around. Boom.
So who can you reach out to, I guess? You're if you're a kid, if you're an adult, who do you have in terms of where should people reach out to? Kids to their parents, I guess.
I mean, kids, absolutely talk to your parents, talk to your school counselors. Like your school counselors are equipped and have resources for you. You can Google depression, anxiety. You can Google, you know, support and find help that way. There is actually one service, and you know, we're not affiliated in any way other than this is the one I used to help my son. But there's a service I'm thrilled about because what we did find when I, you know, my youngest was really stressed about going back into school, and and he's introvert anyway, so he's always had a little bit of social anxiety, but with the pandemic, this is crazy town now. So many kids are struggling that the counselors that are certified for that age group are booked out. So I got onto my insurance. Thankfully, we have insurance, right? I got into my insurance to see who was covered and started reaching out to people, and everyone was booked out. Nobody had slots. So in desperation, I kind of went on an internet search and I found this. It's like a website. It's called Sondermind, SonderMind. And what they do is they have like a national network. You put in, if you have insurance, you put in all your insurance information. If you don't have insurance, you can put that in too. And they have their whole thing is that they have a huge network of providers, and they'll match up providers from your insurance who have availability. So basically, like all of us, I sent one email, right? And then the next day there was 10 therapists with descriptions and their philosophy that
Wow.
we could choose from that Liam could see immediately. Now it was virtual. So Liam's therapy is not in person. Well, both my kids, I guess all three of them are doing virtual therapy right now. But you know, Liam and I were able to sit down and like just look through. And then with Sondermind, it's great because you can chat with them for just a little while. And if you don't feel that connection, then you can just move on to the next person. Because it's very important to feel safe with your therapist.
Yeah.
But in a world where it's so hard to find a therapist right now, that was a great resource, and it really, really helped me. Because there's tons of really good ones where you can, you know, there's a Get Help one where um, it can. I don't think that they take insurance. I think that it's less expensive than if you were to pay for a traditional therapist out of pocket. But the reason I went with Sondermind was just because it actually allowed us to use our insurance, which was great. But there are resources out there, and you're not alone. And just knowing that I mean, so 1 in 10 right now are suffering. 1 in 10 adults are suffering with an anxiety or depressive issue. But the reality is, in our lifetime, 1 in 4 people will struggle at some point. So if you think about any group of people you're in, whether it's us and we walk into our big Keller Williams building with all those agents, right? You can think about it that way. You can think about it if you're a kid and going into school. 1 in 4 people are going to struggle. You are not alone. And that's just the lie of the illness. The last thing I do want to say, though, that really helped me to respect my depression a little bit was that depression, the way the doctor explained it to me, was that it's literally your body's attempt to heal itself. So if it has been so overwhelmed, depression makes you want to just withdraw and do nothing but sit still. And for some people, their body has been so overloaded for so long that depression is literally your body's way of trying to force you to sit still. And so when I started looking at my symptoms that way, if I started to feel a little bit low, a little bit off, now I stop and I'm like, okay, what have I been doing? Have I been like resting? Am I eating well? Like, and every time I realize, oh, I've been pushing the limits. This is my body saying, if you don't slow down, we're gonna make you slow down. So I think having that idea of depression just helps, because if you think of it as your body trying to help you, not your body failing you, not your body as a sign of weakness.
That is true.
Explain to that.
Yeah, going back to the resources, definitely there's people out there, there's organizations out there. You can even just reach out to a friend.
You can reach out to us. We'll
You can
help
reach
you.
out to us. Exactly. Yeah, love to talk. I'll share my personal with you. So definitely reach out. There's always time to listen to friends, new friends, family. Yeah,
Always.
need to put that out there for sure. Cool. So hey, what topic do we have next week?
Next week, I'm excited. We're going to be talking about personality types. Dun, dun, dun.
That'll be awesome. How many different types of personalities?
I mean, there's lots of different systems and stuff, but I think for us, I felt like figuring out each other's personality types just helps so much when you're on a team or even in a family. Like, I think it's cool stuff. Cool stuff. So that's what
I got that. I got that. Just FYI. You send me that email. Hey, David, look at this. What personality type are you? And then like an hour afterwards, hey, David, have you figured it out yet? And then the next day, hey, David, so are you this or are you that? I'm like, think I'm getting a hint that she wants me to do this personality test.
But I mean, it helped me a lot because it's like once I understood kind of how each of us functioned and then how the best way for those two to interact together. I don't know, I thought it was great. I just thought it was really useful. So
That was pretty cool, actually. That was pretty fun. But yeah, that's the next topic we have in hand next week. Hope everybody joins us and becomes part of this conversation. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us.
yeah, take care.
Peace out.